Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host, and welcome to another Shootin' Show. We're so glad to have you with us. We have an interesting program for you today. We have some gun features. We're going to talk to some interesting people. Well, friends, you know, it's already started. We said that the socialists in Washington were going to say that the Brady Bill was only a start, and of course now they're saying the Brady Bill is not going to do anything, which all of us already knew. So they've already started among some of the most liberal socialist columnists calling for total gun banning and total gun confiscation. You know, friends, this is a great time for you to join the Shootin' Show Gun Club and help us reach more and more people, help us put a stop to what is going on with some of these lunatic politicians and people in the State Department in Washington. It's outrageous that here we are having to fight for our rights as citizens of the United States. We're having to fight for our constitutional rights. You know, the government should be fighting for us, our own constitutional rights. Yet, in many cases, the government has actually become the enemy of most of the American population. It is outrageous, and we can do something about it, and we're going to. So please, join the Shootin' Show Gun Club today. You know, these people don't realize that they're actually picking on descendants of the same people that fought in the American Revolution, that fought in the War of 1812, that fought each other in the Civil War, and all the other wars since. You know, we are a tremendously powerful people. And one thing that we know how to do when we get mad is stand up for our rights. And they're making us, the basic American citizen, pretty darn angry. Because I'm talking to so many people all over the country every week, and you know, I have never heard people so angry, so irritated at what some of these politicians are doing, some of the anti-gun people are doing. It is just outrageous, and friends, we have got to stand up. We've got to do something about it. We've got a great show for you today. We do have some very entertaining guests, and let's start our show today with a new Ruger Vaquero and an old cartridge in the .45 Colt. So let's begin with this today. Well, friends, today we're going to look at one of my very favorite handguns, and this is the Ruger Vaquero in .45 Colt, or some people would call it .45 Long Colt. And if you look at the comparison of our cartridges here, on your left is the .44 Magnum, in the center is a .45 Colt hand load, and over on your right is a .45 Colt factory lead load. Now, this gives you some idea of just what size the cartridges are. The .45 Colt is in fact quite a bit larger than a .44 Magnum. You know, friends, this .45 Colt caliber is one of the most overlooked and misunderstood cartridges that I'm aware of. The .45 Colt originated back in 1873, and it was a black powder cartridge. Well, the case had to be large because the folks on the frontier wanted a big bore, powerful revolving cartridge, so they had to make the case big enough to get enough black powder in it so it would be effective. And of course these were. The black powder .45 Long Colts launched around a 250 grain or so bullet at about 900 feet per second when they were full of black powder. The cases held slightly more powder than they do today because they were what is called balloon headed. That has to do with some of the manufacturing processes at the time. In our modern cases today, the cases are much stronger. They have a very thick web down on the end of the cartridge case, so they're much more practical with smokeless powders. But trust me on this one, the original .45 Colt was no slouch. It was a very powerful handgun caliber. You know, these guns, and this Vaquero is the 90s version of the Colt Single Action Army. And Vaquero is Spanish for cowboy, and a lot of people now are competing in the cowboy, the action shooting matches, the single action shooting society, and they're great fun. People dress up, as you've seen them here on the program before in our coverage. They'll dress up in period costumes, and they will shoot traditional type weapons. Well, this Vaquero, Ruger really didn't have a gun that would compete in the most basic or some of the most desirable classes in the cowboy action shooting matches. So what they did, they essentially made a Colt Single Action Army lookalike. Now, there was nothing wrong with the Ruger single actions. In fact, the Ruger single actions are some of my very favorite guns. Here's our old reliable Super Blackhawk, which you've seen on our program many times, and you can tell there's a difference. The Super Blackhawk has adjustable sights, whereas the Vaquero has the Colt type fixed sights. We have a ramp front sight on our Super Blackhawk, and on our Vaquero we have the rounded Colt type front sight. The front sight, you have enough of it that you can actually take a file, and once you decide on which particular loads you're going to be using, you can adjust your front sight to hit point of aim for whatever load you're using. So it's not that inconvenient. Another advantage that fixed sights like this have, one, they're slicker, you don't have as many sharp edges if you had to draw the gun, and also if you drop it, there's nothing to really back here on the receiver of the gun anyway, there's nothing that will break or get out of adjustment. So these are very, very nicely made guns. Now this one is a little beat up because I carry this gun some, and out here on the farm it may be exposed to all kinds of things. Your ejector rod housing here is made of aluminum, but the rest of the gun is all steel. And in fact, I wish Ruger would consider making steel or blue steel ejector rod housings for these guns, because it's a problem when you scratch aluminum, which they invariably do get scratched. They're real hard to touch up. Whereas the blued guns, you can take some of our RB17 bluing and make it look factory fresh. But anyway, the frames on these guns, or the receiver end anyway, has a color case hardened type finish. Now this is not a color case hardened metal. It is a finish that Ruger has developed to make it look like color case hardening. Well, you say it's an imitation Colt. Well, no, not exactly, because this Ruger Vaquero is probably 2 or 3 times as strong as the original Colt. And I do like the original Colts, but they were made with different goals in mind. The Ruger is extremely strong. You have the strength that we've become accustomed to in other Ruger single actions, but it has the aesthetics, it has the nice clean lines of the Colt single action Army. I'll tell you what, friends, this is one of the neatest, and of course we know that this gun is unloaded. It has some of the neatest handling qualities. It seems a lot more different from the other Ruger single actions than it actually is. Of course, the steel grip frame would have a little bit of probably handling, might make it a little different. I really don't know all the reasons why, but these guns do handle so well. This particular one has a 5.5-inch barrel, and we're going to look a little closer in just a moment, but it is so well engineered and well thought out. Well, my goodness, they took the principles that had worked for over 100 years, and then they put in their modern technology, such as the coil spring, hammer spring, coil springs used throughout the gun. It is very, very strong and reliable. And here's another point I want to bring up. The 45 Colt cartridge, in fact, in proper guns now, is actually stronger, or has capabilities beyond the 44 Magnum. But the problem is we've always had the 45 Colt cartridge, but for many years we didn't have a gun that would contain it. Now, some of the 45 Colt chamberings and, say, the Freedom Arms Casull revolvers, or some of the specialty revolvers built by Hamilton Bowen and John Linebaugh, they actually make a 5-shot replacement cylinder. But these Ruger frames are so strong, they can take the 45 Colt up to levels that was never envisioned by its designers, and certainly not envisioned by most of us. In this particular gun, it has so much versatility. Even with the standard Ruger cylinder with 6 holes in the cylinder there, even with the standard Ruger cylinder, you can take the 45 Colt cartridge up to levels that none of us really had used or thought of before in earlier times. Literally, this particular gun, we opened the program with this hand load. It's a 300 grain Hornady XTP bullet, moving about 1,150 feet per second. Well, friends, that's in a smaller gun, and these guns are not real large. It's certainly nowhere near as large as this Super Red Hawk here. So what we're talking about is a fairly light, very portable, very shootable package with the capabilities of extreme power. Now then, if you want to learn about 45 Colt development, or developing hand loads for your cartridge, you need to buy one of the loading manuals from Sierra or Hornady. And since I was shooting or have been loading the Hornady bullet, I looked in their reloading manual, and you will find some loads there for, especially it says, you have two different sections. You have the one section that says 45 Colt, and then a few pages later you have the 45 Colt for Rugers and Thompson Center Contenders, and in some cases the great Dan Wesson revolvers also. Now, I tell you the truth, I haven't had a chance to examine the new Colt Anaconda in 45 Colt. We really haven't tried one, so I'm assuming that it would also take some stronger hand loads because it is a big, strong revolver. Now then, the extremely hot hand loads or warmer hand loads for the 45 Colt cartridges should not be used in, say, the Model 25 Smith & Wesson because the cylinder walls are much thinner on the Smith & Wesson. It's a terrific gun, but it's just not designed to be loaded up. It's designed to be used with factory or factory equivalent loadings. But in guns like this Ruger, the 45 Colt will really amaze you on what capabilities the cartridge has.
Hi, I'm Bob Brown, Vietnam veteran and publisher of Soldier of Fortune magazine, described by some as the most politically incorrect magazine in the United States. Every issue we publish in-depth, provocative articles by our investigative reporters on the efforts of gun-grabbing politicians and the BATF to undermine our Second Amendment rights, and what you can do to stop them. Also on-site coverage of the government's abuse of power has occurred in the Randy Weaver tragedy and the Waco fiasco. No puff, no fluff, in-depth technical reviews of new firearms and ammo. In short, hard-hitting action articles of immediate interest to all real Americans, available from no other mainstream media. You need the other side of the story. That's why I'm offering a one-year subscription to Soldier of Fortune for only $22. That's over a 50% saving. Also, we're going to throw in a free 67-page bonus coverage of all our Waco material that's appeared in Soldier of Fortune and how it affects you. Call our 1-800 number now.
And friends, you can call our Shootin' Show 800 number. That's 1-800-895-7916. Ask for Department SOF for Soldier of Fortune, and we'll take MasterCard or Visa, check, or money order. So call us at 1-800-895-7916. Department SOF, $22 for a year of Soldier of Fortune plus the Waco supplement. It's a great bargain, friends, for a great magazine.
Did you ever try to throw an axe, throw a tomahawk, or throw a knife? Well, now you can with AccuBlade's free video on the art of throwing weapons, free with any axe, tomahawk, or knife order. All AccuBlade products are made by hand in the USA. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks delivery.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Now, friends, you can see the Colt profile on this Ruger Vaquero, and of course the Rugers are all so nicely made. The quality is evident on the Rugers at every angle, and you'll see I've already scratched this aluminum ejector rod housing. Of course, realize this is my gun, and my guns do get used. The guns the factories loan us stay new looking, but the ones that I have, they get used and they get shot and they get carried. But you can tell it looks so much like the Colt single action Army, and the surfaces are all well polished. The grips are all very nicely done. And of course, typical single action, you open the loading gate and then the cylinder is free to turn. Now this is for the Ruger type revolvers. On a Colt, we'd have to put it on half cock. But of course, we'll put in cartridges when you fire the gun. Well, here is your ejector rod underneath the barrel there, and it pushes the empty case out. Now, friends, today, as most of you know, single-action revolvers aren't often recommended as defensive-type guns, but these guns are so reliable and so strong and so powerful and so easy to shoot that it would not be a bad choice, in my opinion anyway, because one of the things that a gun like this encourages you to do, it's so much fun to shoot, you actually want to go out and shoot it and learn to use it properly. Well, friends, we've loaded several cartridges into our Ruger Vaquero. And let me remind you, these guns have a transfer bar safety, so they can safely be carried with all 6 rounds in the chamber. Now let me caution you, the old model Rugers, and that's Rugers made before 1973, and they'll be clearly marked, or at least the newer ones will be clearly marked. They're very easy to identify. They must be carried with only 5 rounds. The old models, due to something could happen and you could drop the gun, hit the hammer, and it could fire if it's over a live cartridge on the old models, just like the Colt single-action armies. And in fact, for that matter, many of the Italian models that are coming in, copies of the Colt single-action, should only be carried with 5 rounds in the cylinder and the hammer down over an empty chamber. Now, this is something that a lot of us really need to be aware of. We have so many new shooters and new viewers to this program that don't know much about guns. Well, let me mention that now. But these guns, the new model Rugers, which certainly includes the Vaquero, are safe to be carried with 6 rounds in the cylinder, because unless that hammer is all the way rear and that trigger is pulled, the hammer cannot contact the firing pin due to that transfer bar. So let's take a look here. The standard factory Colt loading is a very mild cartridge. Literally, the manufacturers make the factory bullet, the 250 or so grain lead bullet, moving at a very moderate velocity, about 750 to 800 feet per second. And the reason they make such a mild loading in these cartridges is there are still a lot of those old Colts out there, and some of the integrity of that metal is not known, and you wouldn't want to put a real hot cartridge in. You might blow the gun up. So the standard factory Colt loading is in fact very mild, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So we always need to be aware of those old guns out there, and a lot of those old guns that date from, say, before 1900, a lot of them shouldn't be shot at all. They ought to be put in a collection somewhere and just look at them and get these new guns and shoot them. But the manufacturers do make these lower powered cartridges in case someone's going to shoot an old gun. Now then, even today, if you have a new single-action Army Colt, it is certainly safe with all the factory ammunition that's out there and some moderate hand loads. But the single-action Army Colt should never be used with some of the top-end loads for these Rugers, because there's just no need to tear up a fine gun. Heck, you might hurt yourself. We sure don't want that. But you would certainly be awfully tough on the gun using some of the loads that are available or out there for these Rugers. The Colts are very fine, wonderful historical pieces, but they're just not designed. They're not quite as large as these Rugers are, and they're not made in mind of shooting Magnum-type loads. Well, anyway, let me check my hearing protection. And you know me, I always have these earplugs in, because as much as I shoot, if I didn't wear hearing protection all the time, well, I wouldn't be able to hear anything. So, anyway, take a look at the recoil here of the factory 250, and let's see what that is, in fact. How about, yep, 250 grain lead bullet. So watch it recoil in my hands here. See, just not much at all. Very easy to shoot. And in fact, for the cowboy type matches, the 45 Colt factory ammunition is just fine. It's a terrific load for match type shooting. Now then, let's look at a hand load. Let's say a moderate hand load, a 260 grain bullet, moving at about 1,000 or so feet per second. Watch it in recoil. Well, it had a little more recoil. Still wasn't bad, because the gun rolls up in the hand. You don't have all the recoil from the frame going back in the web of your hand. You'll see it rolls up in the hand. Now then, let's look at a load, the 300 grain bullet moving at about 1,150 feet per second. And this has over 800 foot-pounds of energy. So it is a very powerful loading. So let's watch it in recoil. Yes, a little more severe. It's still not going to hurt you. That is a 44 Magnum class load, in fact, with a 300 grain bullet for a gun with a barrel of this length. And it's not going to hurt you as bad as, say, a 5-inch Model 29 or something from Smith & Wesson. Good guns though they are, the recoil is pretty tough with those guns. These guns will transfer the recoil back up and over a wider portion of your hand, say, than a double-action revolver, as we've showed before in the program. The double actions have this hump on the back of the frame here, and it tends to go back in the web of your hand, whereas the recoil on the single actions is transferred more to your entire palm of your hand and over a longer period of time. So let's shoot the gun on target. It is most impressive because all you have to do to work with fixed sights is just get a particular load you like, and you can find out where the gun shoots if you have to use a little Kentucky windage or whatever else. Well, let's take a look at it on paper. Well, friends, we've loaded 5 of the 300 grain higher powered loadings here in our Vaquero. You know, just because the gun has fixed sights does not mean it is no less accurate than, say, the same revolver with adjustable sights. Adjustable sights, the only advantage they have is they can let you adjust for whatever particular load you're using. On a gun like this Vaquero, I'm not going to be using tremendous numbers of different loads, so it's not really going to be a problem for most of us, certainly not for me. We've got our target out here at about 15 yards. Let's just see what it'll do offhand with these higher powered. And believe me, this 300 grain bullet would be an excellent hunting load for wild hog, for deer. Believe me, you've got a lot of power here in a very lightweight and portable package, and it still doesn't really hurt your hand to shoot it. So let's go ahead and take a look on paper here and see what the gun will do offhand. In my hands today anyway. One more. And yes, that is a potent load. Trust me on this one, your hand and wrist are going to give out before the strength of this rigger does. Well, let's take a look at our group and see what it did. Now then, friends, you can see there are 4. Well, it put all 5 bullets in the black there. It made one large hole. So, yes, I would say that the Vaquero is very accurate. Well, friends, like I said, I have enjoyed this Vaquero so much. This is going to be one that they're not going to be easy to find everywhere. And, of course, as you folks know, before it's over with, the anti-gun types will be trying to take these, too. They're going to be calling even the single-action assault pistols, and it's just outrageous. But we're going to do everything that we can, to preserve our rights as American citizens to keep and bear arms. But friends, we can't let them take away. It's ridiculous that our government and some of these people that have a clue about nothing, that have professional bodyguards, these people seem to think that the police can protect you at every corner, and if we somehow took away the weapons, well, then people wouldn't be bad anymore. Well, friends, having a weapon has no effect whatsoever on how someone's going to act or what their personality is going to be, on whether they're a mean person or a criminal or not. That's immaterial. And you know, like Jeff Cooper said, there are more good people than there are bad people. So if we arm the good people, even if everybody's armed, there won't be a problem, because remember that the bad people only pick on those that are defenseless, the older people, the women, the children, people who can't adequately defend themselves. So, friends, this is something we've got to do. We have got to hold on to our guns, and doggone it, we're going to do it. We're not going to let them get away with it. Anyway, the Ruger Vaquero, one of the most fun guns that really has come our way, and we're so pleased that they are making these guns available. These guns are going to be out there in different calibers. They're also going to be making them in stainless steel, and of course in different barrel lengths. The 4 and 3/4 inch, I believe, or 4 5/8, whatever it is. This, of course, is a 5 1/2, and they also have these guns in 7 1/2 inch barrel lengths. And as I said earlier, the 45 Colt has been one of the most misunderstood cartridges. So whether you want to play the action shooting games or just shoot for fun, like on that steel plate there, like so, or you want to shoot loads that'll darn sure be counted on to bring home the Vincent. Yes, the Vaquero 45 Colt.
I'm proud to be an American, thank God our country's strong. But some time ago, you know what occurred to me? There's something going wrong. My granddad fought against tyranny so we could all be free. I'm afraid, my friends, his fight has passed down to you and me, down to you and me. We got people telling us what to do, they don't even know our name. We're just a number on some little card, and I think that's a shame. If George and Abe could see us now, bet they'd both agree this is not exactly what they had in mind. The land of liberty, sweet land of liberty. Oh, I love to hear my Harley run. I like being free to live out my dreams, and I want to have a little fun. I want to hold on to what we've got, from sea to shining sea. I'm afraid, my friend, the fight has passed down to you and me. Oh, down to you and me. We got politicians and bureaucrats all telling us what to do. And they don't seem at all concerned about what they put us through. They tax and spend like there's no end, throw it all away. Just keep in mind there'll come a time when nobody's left to pay. Well, nobody's left to pay. There's people that wanna lock us up just to keep us away from harm. They want a police state to give us orders, but they can get us unarmed. There's folks that say they know the truth, well, they saw it on TV. We got some boys on Capitol Hill, don't wanna have us free. No, they don't wanna have us free. My Harley run. I like being free to live out my dreams, and I wanna have a little fun. I wanna hold on to what we've got, from sea to shining sea. I'm afraid, my friends, the fight has passed down to you and me. Well, down to you and me.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or television station. You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. Thousands and thousands of firearms bargains with 3 big issues monthly. Shotgun News, Post Office Box 669, Hastings, Nebraska. That zip is 68902. Their phone number, area 402-463-4589. For MasterCard or Visa subscriptions only, 1-800-345-6923. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Friends, we hope you're enjoying our program so far today. And, of course, here's our news moment. We want to bring you up to date on some of the things that are going on around the country. You know, today in Washington, D.C., there are certain police groups or divisions of police that we understand are stopping people on the street if they just happen to look suspicious. And they're being searched, and, of course, if they have a gun, they're being disarmed. But, you know, friends, wait a minute. I didn't know the police could stop you for just looking suspicious if you're not doing anything wrong. I mean, what's happening around us now? I mean, there's more than one amendment to the Constitution that these people are breaking or trampling on. Friends, we've got to do something about it, and one of the things you can do is join the Shoot and Show Gun Club because of all the things we have planned, and of course your efforts on behalf of the Shoot and Show Gun Club help us through this program reach more and more people. You know, there's nothing wrong with responsible citizens owning this Colt Sporter, or for that matter, this 1911, or anything else that we've had all these years that suddenly the anti-gun types want to take away from us. Friends, they have got to be stopped, and no, they will not listen to reason. You cannot reason with these people. As Jeff Cooper calls them, the rabbit people, and I tend to agree because, you know, it's easy. Someone said the other day, the socialists like nothing better than to play with your and my liberty. Now, wait a minute. You know, let them play with their own liberty. But don't come over here and tell you and I, as responsible gun owners, what we should and should not have. You know, friends, many times we've said on this program, and we will continue to say, if we lose the Second Amendment, well, we've lost all the others, because it is, in fact, the Second Amendment, our rights to keep and bear arms as citizens, that protect all the other amendments, and for that matter, the Constitution itself. Please, friends, we have got to band together, and that's one thing the anti-gun types are doing now. They are unifying a lot of diversified shooters, a lot of people that have many, many different interests around shooting, but yes, we are coming together, and no, we're not going to let them get away with it. Friends, join the Shoot and Show Gun Club today. You can call our 800 number, 1-800-895-7916. We'll get you the information out. It's only $25 for an annual membership, and we'll accept MasterCard, Visa, check, or money order, certainly. So, friends, we need to do it. Please help us, help all of us by joining our gun club today. And now, friends, we're going to hear from Art Alphin, that is Lieutenant Colonel Art Alphin, retired, formerly of West Point, and he's going to be talking about the M1 Garand rifle today. You know, these guns are still out there, they're still available, and anything that's semi-automatic, we really should consider getting one if we possibly can, if we want one, because we don't know how long that any semi-automatic is going to be available. Of course, Art has the great A-Square Company in Bedford, Kentucky, and they build some of the finest high-powered rifles and ammunition that's available anywhere in the world. For information on Art's products, call them at area 502-255-7456. So now let's see what Art has to tell us today.
The idea of using the forces released upon discharge of a weapon in order to cycle that weapon dates from the 1880s. You have been exposed to some of the major designers, such as Maxim and Browning, and to one of the two basic systems, recoil operation. Using these ideas in the infantryman's rifle was either beyond design capability or entailed a heavier weapon than most nations were willing to tolerate. Consequently, on the eve of World War II, all nations but one were equipped with basically the same rifle they had used to fight World War I. Like this British Lee Enfield, or this German 98K, there was basically no change. They were bolt-action magazine rifles that were loaded using stripper clips. I said this was true in all nations but one. That one was the United States. Development of a semi-automatic rifle had been receiving attention in the United States since World War I. The Browning automatic rifle was originally intended as an individual's weapon. After the war, Colonel Thompson, the inventor of the Thompson submachine gun, also fielded a design for a semi-automatic rifle. His design was complicated, had a very long receiver, was not very robust, and not really satisfactory for an individual semi-automatic rifle. Pedersen, the designer of the Pedersen device of World War I fame, also designed a semi-automatic rifle. He used the toggle action very similar to the Luger pistol for his rifle. Though much closer to what the Army was looking for, the Pedersen was, for a number of reasons, also not satisfactory. John Garand, a designer at Springfield Armory, stepped into this arena in the early 1930s. By 1936, he had combined a few ideas of his own with some basic ideas from Pedersen and with the Browning gas operation system. The result was a rifle that, even though the Army designated it the M1, would forever be known as the Garand. The rifle used a gas operation system. Here's how it works. After the powder begins to burn, it generates gas at extremely high pressure and propels the bullet down the barrel. As the base of the bullet passes a gas port, a small amount of gas exits the port. This gas goes into a cylinder mounted underneath the barrel, where it further expands, pressing on a piston which rides in the cylinder. This piston is machined onto the end of the operating rod. The operating rod's other end has a cam follower slot cut in it, and this fits over a corresponding cam projection on the side of the bolt. The first fraction of an inch of movement of the operating rod allows for the time it takes for the bullet to exit the muzzle and gas pressure in the barrel to drop. The cam follower then strikes the cam at an angle, driving the cam up and unlocking the bolt. It then carries the bolt all the way to the rear, which extracts and ejects the old cartridge case. At this point, the energy in the operating rod has been spent in opening the bolt and compressing the operating rod spring. The spring now takes over, driving the bolt and the operating rod forward. The bolt picks up the next cartridge, feeds it into the chamber, and as the cam follower pushes the cam downwards, the bolt locks and the rifle is ready to fire again. This entire operation takes about 1/10 of a second. The Garand feeds from an 8-round N-block clip. It is descended from the Mannlicher N-block clip of the 1880s. In the Garand, the N-block clip is staggered double column, but still works exactly as Mannlicher intended. The rifle provides the magazine follower and follower spring, which pushes the cartridges upward so that the bolt can get to them. The N-block clip provides the feed lips, which hold the cartridges in alignment so that the bolt can push them into the chamber. After firing the last shot, the weapon begins to cycle normally. As the last cartridge is ejected, the magazine follower also ejects the now empty N-block clip. The follower rises to the limit of its travel, tripping a lever and locking the bolt to the rear. The soldier then takes his next 8-round N-block clip and presses it down into the rifle from above. When the clip locks into position, the bolt is released, chambering the first cartridge, and the rifle is now ready to fire again. This weapon obviously has some great advantages over a bolt-action rifle. Let's take a look at the Garand firing against a bolt action. The bolt will have 2 targets each at 80, 185, and 330 yards, while the Garand will have 3 targets each at those ranges. The winner of the race will fire on a stationary target at 680 yards. Perhaps that wasn't very suspenseful. On the chart, it looks like this. The combat range is exactly the same. This is because both the bolt action and the M1 Garand fire a full power rifle cartridge. The volume of fire for the Garand is quite obviously greater by more than a factor of 2. But the differences between the 2 rifles are a good bit more than what you see. It is the placing of the face and hand back on the stock, what some people call a stock weld, and reacquiring the sight picture that takes the time with the bolt action. In fact, it takes more time than the actual working of the bolt itself. The great advantage of the M1 Garand is that for the 2nd through the 8th shot, you do not have to do this. Reacquisition of the sight picture is extremely simple and fast. This is what gives the M1 Garand its higher volume of fire. Any fool can fan his finger inside the trigger guard and rip out 8 rounds in a couple of seconds. This is not effective fire. When we say 32 rounds a minute for the Garand, we mean a well-trained shooter using a sling to help stabilize the weapon in recoil and using a stable position, prone or sitting, and putting every bullet where he wants it to go.
We'll be right back with more of the Shootin' Show after this break for your local cable company or television station.
Hi, I'm Bob Brown, Vietnam veteran and publisher of Soldier of Fortune magazine, described by some as the most politically incorrect magazine in the United States. Every issue we publish in-depth provocative articles by our investigative reporters on the efforts of gun-grabbing politicians and the BATF to undermine our Second Amendment rights, and what you can do to stop them. Also on-site coverage of the government's abuse of power has occurred in the Randy Weaver tragedy and the Waco fiasco. No puff, no fluff, in-depth technical reviews of new firearms and ammo. In short, hard-hitting action articles of immediate interest to all real Americans, available from no other mainstream media. You need the other side of the story. That's why I'm offering a one-year subscription to Soldier of Fortune for only $22. That's over a 50% saving. Also, we're going to throw in a free 67-page bonus coverage of all our Waco material that's appeared in Soldier of Fortune and how it affects you. Call our 1-800 number now.
And friends, you can call our Shootin' Show 800 number. That's 1-800-895-7916. Ask for Department SOF for Soldier of Fortune, and we'll take MasterCard or Visa, check, or money order. So call us at 1-800-895-7916. Department SOF, $22 for a year of Soldier of Fortune plus the Waco supplement. It's a great bargain, friends, for a great magazine.
At the longer ranges, the M1 Garand is just as accurate as any bolt-action rifle. At first glance, the Garand's aperture sight does not appear to be adjustable for range. This is not true. The elevation knob on the Garand rear sight serves double duty as a ballistic range drum. After the weapon is zeroed for the individual shooter, the drum is loosened and re-indexed so that the battle sight arrow is pointing to the 0 mark. Whenever the shooter wants to fire beyond his battle sight range, he estimates the range to the target and turns the elevation knob until the range, as printed on it, is lined up beside the 0 mark. The sights are now adjusted for that range, and the shooter can fire. The M1 Garand was certainly the best general-purpose battle rifle used in World War II. Given the scope of World War II, it is difficult to isolate an incident in which the Garand's superiority over a bolt action is clearly demonstrated. We originally intended that every rifleman be armed with an M1 Garand. This gave our squads a much higher volume of fire. After-action reports from numerous small unit leaders consistently cite this increased volume of fire as a major factor. There were, of course, some places where the M1 Garand probably should not have been issued and used. In this jungle, for example, a submachine gun might be better. In most areas, particularly in North Africa and throughout Europe, the Garand was just the ticket. It was, as General George S. Patton said, the greatest battle implement ever devised.
Well, friends, here's a really neat little gun we're going to look at today. This is the Taurus PT-22. And you know, we featured a lot of Tauruses on our program, and we've had very good luck with, one, them functioning, and two, the workmanship has just been outstanding. And I understand that if you do have a problem with a Taurus handgun, that the factory is awfully good about fixing or replacing it. These guns do come with a lifetime warranty, and I think that speaks pretty well for any manufacturer to offer that sort of warranty, because heck, if you offer a warranty like that, I mean, you could never make money if you had to be replacing guns all the time. So these Tauruses are really nicely done. They're also very economical in price, and this particular PT-22 is very similar as far as the way it looks to the Beretta series of small semi-automatic handguns. But the Taurus is a little different. One, it is double action only. There is no cocked setting for the hammer on this gun. Every time the gun is fired, the trigger has to be pulled, just like on a double action revolver. This is probably, on a small gun like this, probably the safest mechanism that I'm aware of, because there's no danger in the gun being dropped and a danger of accidental discharge from hitting a hammer, because the hammer cannot be cocked. It is going to have to be fired by pulling that trigger all the way to the rear. These guns have the tip-up barrel, and we'll look at this all in more detail in just a moment. But you can load the magazine on the gun, and you don't have to rack the slide. A lot of people, a lot of women would have an interest in this gun, or a lot of people that might not have a lot of strength in their hands. Well, they don't have to pull the slide back to load it. All they have to do is tip that barrel up and insert a cartridge. Also, if you want to unload the gun, all you have to do, you got the little switch here on the side, little lever there, and just tip the barrel up and unload the gun. It has a magazine safety. The gun cannot be fired if the magazine is out of the gun, and it holds 9 in the magazine. So, you know, 9 rounds in the magazine plus 1 in the barrel is a total of 10. It's a potent package in a small handgun like this. This little gun has been extremely reliable. It's not, say, as accurate as a similar gun from Beretta that we had tested a while back, but it's still certainly adequately accurate for its intended purpose. This little gun would be an excellent tackle box gun, a trail gun, a backup gun for someone who is carrying a larger weapon, and certainly 10 rounds of .22 long rifle is nothing to be sneezed at if you can hit your intended target. It has a thumb safety in the position that we are used to for the 1911 type guns here on the left side of the gun. It's very well thought out. And of course, what's impressed me more than anything else, this little gun has yet to jam on us, and we've shot it a couple of hundred times. And typically the little .22 automatics from every manufacturer will occasionally jam, just due to the nature of the cartridge itself working in a semi-automatic mechanism. But this one has not jammed yet, so we're real impressed with that. Well, let's take a little closer look. Now, friends, you can tell this is a very small handgun, but it would be an ideal pocket pistol if you have a concealed carry permit. Certainly, you know, we never advocate breaking the law, but those permits are available in different parts of the country. You can see the safety here on the back of the gun, which the slide won't work. Nothing will happen when that safety is on. And of course, I think the gun would be safe to be carried probably with safety off. Of course, you can't have it any other way but hammered down. But you have pretty good sights, actually, and we can see our old snake up there. We'll take a shot at it in just a moment. But you have the tip-up lever right here, and of course this makes cleaning the gun so easy and simple to do. It's also simple to load. Of course, you don't have to pull the slide back if you don't have much strength in your hands. And of course, we have the magazine out, and the slide won't come back now without the magazine. Now then, friends, I'll show you. Of course, here's our 9-round magazine, in fact, for the Taurus. And what I do is just put my thumbnail on this little piece here in the center in the window there, and just pull it down and insert the cartridges. Very easy. And we'll get another one here. Just pull it down and insert the cartridges. And of course, you can load them all just real simply and fast. All right, friends, let's load our Taurus PT-22. Just insert the magazine in the base. And of course, you have a little heel here. That's good to put your little finger on there and grip. And now we'll tip our barrel up, and we'll load one more cartridge there. And now our safety's off. The gun's ready to be fired. Well, we've got our drawing of our Louisiana swamp snake here, and let's see what kind of luck we have. Remember, center that front sight, and these guns are designed to be used up close anyway. All right. And I can't think of a better use than to shoot some of these vicious snakes that we have. And you can see it has very little recoil, and I am so impressed with functioning on this gun. All right, let's go forward and take a look at our old Louisiana swamp snake there. Well, friends, I believe we put about 5 shots in the old snake's head, and really that's what we need to be concerned with, being able to hit our target. And admittedly, the target is fairly close, but the little .22 semi-automatic has a lot of useful purposes. Well, friends, the little Taurus PT-22 has really been a fun gun for us to have. We do appreciate the good folks at TAR loaning this to us for testing on our program. It's been certainly accurate enough. It's been extremely reliable, and it also has qualities of shootability that is so important in a small handgun like this. Now then, if you're going to depend on this gun as a backup gun or in any sort of defensive situation, and of course something like this might be the only thing you had at the time, they do need to be maintained in oil. Certainly, if I shot 50 rounds through it, I'd want to go home and clean it, and because 22 long rifle ammunition is somewhat dirty to shoot, and a lot of us go out and will shoot a couple of boxes at a time. So that's something to keep in mind, although this little gun has been very tolerant of dirt. But any semi-automatic pistol needs to be kept a little cleaner than a comparable size revolver, just due to how the mechanism works. But anyway, the little Taurus PT-22, a very fine bargain and a whole lot of fun. Well, let's work on our steak some more. Yeah.
You know, I've been talking to that gobbler all morning, but I guess that's one turkey I just can't fool. Hi, I'm Grits Gresham, and believe me, turkey hunting is a real challenge. It takes patience, skill, and the right equipment. So see the folks who'll steer you right on the firearms and other hunting gear you'll need this season. Don't you be fooled. For your equipment needs, see the real pro in your community.
Did you ever try to throw an axe, throw a tomahawk, or throw a knife? Well, now you can with AccuBlade's free video on the art of throwing weapons. Free with any axe, tomahawk, or knife order. All AccuBlade products are made by hand in the USA. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks delivery.
Well, friends, it's happened again. We've run out of time for this week's program, but we sure have enjoyed having you with us, certainly on this shooting show. I want to remind you, on January 27, we'll be moving on the Thursday night broadcast on G4 from Channel 23 down to Channel 7. Again, on the 27th, we'll start running shows on Thursday night on Channel 7 rather than on Channel 23. Also, if you want information on next year's Soldier of Fortune convention, well, call us on our 800 number and we'll get that information out to you. Well, until next week, we'll look forward to seeing you on another shooting show.